Good day, everyone. HighRoad Solution is pleased to present this online webinar entitled Track My Content, Best Practices for Using URLs to Measure Content Interaction. Our speaker for the presentation today is Adam Higgins. My name is Jeff Baker, and I will be your moderator for today's seminar. Today's presentation will last approximately 60 minutes and include a specific question and answer period at the end of the session. You can ask questions via the web conference system simply by typing your question into the Q&A box on the right-hand side of your screen and then clicking on the call-out button or hitting enter on your keypad. These instructions will be repeated later in the program. If you have any technical questions during the event, please email support@highroadsolution.com. Today's webinar is being recorded and all participant lines will be muted during the live program. For over a decade, Adam has functioned as a marketing and business analyst for nonprofits and associations. In 2013, Adam joined HighRoad Solution as a technical project manager to manage e-marketing and digital communication implementations. Throughout Adam's career, he has bridged the gap between the business units and information technology department. Adam is a graduate from California State University, Dominguez Hills, and he is a Los Angeles native that now resides in Atlanta, Georgia with his wife and son. Adam is one of the few men that enjoys wearing a suit and tie to work. And with that, I would now like to turn the call over to Adam.
All right, thanks, Jeff. So today's talk is about using data from various sources, web, AMS, your CRM, social media platforms, etc., right, to kind of effectively manage your content marketing campaigns, right? So the data component that it really helps to build that improvement process with your content. Now, every campaign has a goal, right? And data usually dictates the success of that goal. And the whole idea behind content marketing is really starting to move through the association and nonprofit space. It already has in other markets, such as retail and fashion. You see a lot of these hybrid, media sites that are also e-commerce sites. They usually lead with the media, like how-to articles, photos, videos, infographics, and such. But at the same time, they also sell you with items in the storefront. And so the idea, the core to content marketing is to instead of the traditional advertising of pushing your products or services, you're delivering this really awesome, high quality, relevant, valuable, keyword right there, valuable content to your constituents. And what's cool is you're sharing this content for free, right? You're sharing this online. And keep in mind, it's not a spray and pray method. You're not putting content out there for the sake of just having it on your website. There's a real focus to content marketing. Your content has to be focused, and your constituents should feel like it's curated specifically for them. There's this new show on Netflix. It's called House of Cards, and it's a fantastic show. It's so fantastic, I thought it was made for me. And Kevin Spacey plays this kind of congressman. He has all these power plays and political shenanigans. But I'm not far off when I'm saying that the show was made specifically for me. What Netflix did was they had years and years of data from their streaming video service, right? And so they created a show specifically for their customers from the viewing data that they had in their database. They realized from shows like Scandal and West Wing and all those data metrics within there, they went down to the granular level and created some intricate characters and storylines. And so you want to deliver that kind of Netflix curation, right? You want to build that content library that builds your brand equity with your constituents. And as a result, you become this credible source. And it's no question that people gravitate to the experts. And with each view, each click, each download from a user from your site generates this brand equity. And the data shows it, right? As consumers consume more and more of that valuable, keyword again, valuable content, this leads to new members. It leads to retention of existing members. And the other day I had this chat with Ron. He's the CTO at HighRoad, and we were talking about Best Buy. And he had this experience at Best Buy where the customer service agent knew his stuff so well, right? Ron went in with one idea but came out with the other, right? The guy knew his stuff so much, he kind of acquiesced to whatever the guy suggested. And so in this new kind of digital space, that guy at Best Buy that really knew his stuff, that expert, he would have a blog with helpful tips, and users will look to him as the go-to resource for electronics. So what you're really trying to provide is this humanistic quality that Best Buy expert customer service was provided to Ron, right? You want that humanistic quality to kind of be within your content, and you want to convey that in your message. The brand, your brand for your association, for your nonprofit, now becomes a persona, right? It is a person within itself. And now more than ever, there's really this art in the copy, right? So the art isn't in selling like traditional advertising. The art is really in helping, right? And you have to craft these messages without selling. You have to craft messages that help your constituents. You're conversing, to your market valuable information so that they come back to you over and over again and build this brand equity with you. And that's why I truly believe that associations are well poised and well positioned to take advantage of content marketing. Associations at its core is a community to help, right? You have a ton of experts that reside in your association, and you need to tap into those experts to contribute to your content library. Professional societies, nonprofit trades, all have members' best interest in mind, so tap into those experts that are within your association, and at the end of the day, you want to help your constituents. Now, on top of that, core purpose of helping your constituents is your CRM and AMS. Just like Netflix had a database to go to kind of form a content, show, you can form your own content marketing strategy based on the data that's within your AMS. And you guys have been churning out content for years, right? And so a combination of those two provides this, well-positioned spot for associations to kind of, do this content marketing. Think about it. Think about the purchase history that you have within your AMS. You have events, resources, books, publications, subscriptions that members have purchased. In addition, you have all that demographic data probably, right? So that's, probably more than what Netflix actually had, to some extent, right? So, you have job titles, ages, ranges, geographic data, SIC codes, the list goes on, and you take all of that data and really form a solid content strategy. And what happens is, using this database, you're going to have this niche content with all this content. You're going to have infographics, ebooks, articles, how-to guides, case studies. The list goes on. And some of these things you might be doing already. I'm pretty sure you are. And before you kind of get started, I'm pretty sure you should do an audit beforehand. But our end goal here with the content marketing, right, is to have someone go to Google a relative topic to your association, and you rank high in Google on that topic. And so with all this content that you're going to be putting out there in this space, you're going to need to track it, right? Once you have buy-in from all your colleagues, once you have everybody contributing, eventually you're going to have to deliver some level of metrics. And so this is where you're going to need some type of toolkit, right? You're going to have to get some tools in place so that you are ready and available to deliver some metrics. You're going to put on this, utility belt and start dishing out some KPIs and reports. And, somebody's going to ask you one day, Adam, how much revenue is generated from people that view infographics? And I have to have some tools in place to kind of, answer these types of questions. Now, when you kind of get started in this, you're going to have to establish some benchmarks up front based on the data in your AMS or CRM, and keep in mind that other 2014 buzzword outside of content marketing is engagement, and many of the AMSs and CRMs are now tracking how engaged your constituent is in your association. So it's probably a good start now to develop a baseline and illustrate a level of increased engagement, post your content marketing, startup. But if you really want to get sophisticated with it, you can start to correlate some engagement with membership retention and so forth. But in this presentation, with this toolkit, I'm gonna give you some of the things that I've used over my career, various online and social tracking. And you really want to, listen to your audience, whether it be social media or web metrics, and you want to take what the members are giving to you and reciprocate, right? You want to reciprocate what they give to you and develop a strategy and develop some content that is relative to them. So the first tool that is really out there is Google Analytics. Google Analytics is the most widely used web application platform, probably due to the brand Google, but secondly, it's free. So those two things combined, free and Google, you build up a big customer base with that, right? I've used it for over 8 years now. I know there's other platforms out there. You can get some paid ones like Site Catalyst. Kissmetrics is another one, and ClickTel, I think, which is cool. It develops these heat maps on your site. But Google Analytics is pretty much a standard in terms of web metrics. It provides these rich features that allows you to do segmentation within the platform and deliver some really quality metrics on your website. All right. For example, the question I quoted earlier, right? How much revenue has infographics created for this association, right? So within Google Analytics, you can do this thing called segmentation. And segmentation is basically filtering your account on a certain variable. And so you can segment based on content type. Now, depending on how your CMS, your content management system is set up, you can have clean URLs, meaning that your URL is not, a bunch of characters and parameters, right? It actually says something in the URL. All right, so let's say it's site.com/infographics/ the title of the infographic. Well, in Google, I can search for that infographic in that title and then segment my account on only infographics. Now, if I turn on e-commerce tracking, I can use the infographic variable as a source, and now I can see if there is any products or purchases, that have been sold based on infographic traffic. And so those are some of the type of the rich features that you can use within Google Analytics, and it's probably, the number one go-to resource that's in your kind of toolkit. All right? And so there's always going to be a need to go deep diving into data. Excel or your AMS query systems are pretty much the tools. And there will always be a time where you need to dump data into Excel, and start to run an analysis. A simple, pivot table is one of the most effective ways to illustrate data in a clean way. I've ran some even more sophisticated analysis in Excel, like regression and correlation. But really all you have to do is turn on the analysis pack, and you get all these advanced statistics. But there's a library of functions within Excel that allows you to do some creative things with data, like percent rank, percentiles, quartiles. And I think that lookup function has been the most useful function over my career. Like if I ever got an award, I'm going to attribute lookup function, in my, thank you speech or something, because the lookup function has probably saved me time on millions of quandaries. Your AMS, you already know this. Your database is probably the heart of your association, and it's probably your biggest resource, whether it be Data Analyzer, Query Central, or views, you can query your database to pull back those necessary data elements, especially when we're talking about curating content, that Netflix type of idea, and understanding what your members' needs and kind of building that taste profile for your constituents. You probably want to establish some standard reports, going forward for this content marketing strategy. But, the AMS and Excel are your two kind of data crunching toolkits or tools in your toolkit. Surveys. You can't have a content marketing strategy without surveys. I think email and surveys are kind of the cornerstone to digital marketing. You have to reach out to your constituents and ask them what they want. There's no way around it. And the fear, I think, and it's kind of the same fear that when email marketing kind of got started, it was, always inundating the members. And if you strategize in ways where you're just not hitting the same people all the time, you're segmenting your groups that you're surveying, you're being strategic in the way that you survey, then you're not really inundating your members. And that's the same when it comes to like email marketing, right? And so what you get out of the surveys is some really good insight on what people are thinking. You already have a lot of behavioral data with the other kind of tools, right? Google Analytics, your AMS. You can really pull back action, the things that people do. But you really can't assess what people are actually thinking about you. So you want to get that quantitative, data that's offline, right? You want to see what their intentions are when they're coming to your website. You can phrase questions to your constituents like, how do you see our brand as an expert, and fill in a blank, right? And imagine what kind of responses you can get and what you can do with that data once you get those responses. Another example, I used to send out a survey at the top of the year. It was an issue survey, just to rank the top issues that our members would want to read about, right? And so that's just a simple survey, and then you get the data back, and then you can kind of craft your content strategy around that. So surveys are very important to fill in the gaps where you really don't have answers, right? The behavioral data and the action data really tells you what people are doing, but what people are actually feeling and what people are actually thinking, that's where you can extract it out of the surveys. So what we're going to do is kind of go through a workflow on two typical kind of content marketing setups, right? So we have landing pages and newsletters. And landing pages are perfect because you're giving something away for free, but you're also getting something in return that's valuable, which is lead generation. And landing pages are very focused, right? So you have your home page. It has a myriad of different things on the home page, sliders, news, events. But when you land on a landing page, there's a focus. There is one thing to do. It has one message. And so that's why they are very effective, and that's why a lot of marketers use landing pages. Now, landing pages can come in different forms. They can be on a website, and most are, right? But now we're starting to see a trend where these landing pages are on social media sites like Facebook, right? Facebook, you can create these apps within your Facebook profile and create these creative landing pages with photos and lead generation. And then you can get that data within Facebook that you can't get in web analytics, like age and gender and such. So landing pages are one of the go-to marketers web tools. So here's a landing page. I was doing research on landing pages, and I found this great landing page. And a landing page should clearly articulate what constituents is going to get, right? In this web trends example, it clearly states at the top, land page optimizer. Like, I'm going to get a white paper on land page optimization. There's nothing else on this page, right? I know I'm going to get this. There's no fluff. The headline is clear and concise. The text is straight to the point. And now, how do I get it, right? Oh, I got to fill out this form. And that's even clear, right? Make it very clear how your constituents is going to get, that white paper, that call to action, right? So the form has a header. It says get white paper, right? It's very clear. This it's screaming at me because it's in all caps, but get me, So all I have to do is fill out this form and click download. So Web Trends is making it easy for me to get exactly what I want. I want this white paper, and my assumption is that after I, as a user, as a visitor, my assumption is after I complete this form, the site will either send me a link via email or send me, directly to the PDF that's available. That's my assumption, and I'm hoping that holds true. And so when you have these landing pages and you have a call to action, you want to make sure it's clearly stated what the person is going to get, how they're going to get it, and then make it easy for them to get it. Now, if I click this download button and it sends me to four more pages through a funnel, I'm going to get annoyed, right? So what you want to do is make sure that once they click download, they're going to get exactly what they want. Now, I want to apply web metrics to this page. Now, this is where we start to get into tracking. Now, that the first part was delivering the content, your content marketing strategy. Now, let's apply some web metrics to this white paper landing page funnel. So to help you visualize all the elements that I want to track, I have this flow chart. And the flow chart steps through the process of how a constituent or prospect, member, what have you, can potentially download this document. I typically don't write this down. This is kind of the first time I actually put it on paper. It's usually in my head, and yes, I am a nerd, so I have visual charts in my head running through like this all the time. And so this funnel illustrates how a constituent can follow through to get their document. Now, the user is either using a mobile or desktop device, right? And I'm lumping tablet within mobile, so hopefully your site is responsive and can adapt to any device with. And if not, that's okay. With Google Analytics, you can see the traffic from mobile devices and research whether that is important to you, right? Because if you get data back that illustrates that 2% of the people are actually coming to this landing page using a mobile device, then responsive design isn't where you need to go. But we see trends now, and most people are using mobile to search the internet. So kind of any new site that's developed nowadays is typically responsive. And so the data that you're going to get back is really deciding on how you should lay out your pages and how effectively you should manipulate those pages between the two devices. And so that's why it's important to do the device tracking. So the person comes through either with a desktop or mobile device, and then so they can arrive at your web page from different sources, right? And so Google uses this sources variable. It's a parameter that you can use to filter content within inside Google Analytics. And you can, just about any element within Google's, you can add the source element and see where this traffic or where this conversion has came from. So within this example, there's, social media, organic, direct, or email, right? And so social media, I'm lumping the big three in there, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And you got a fourth is Google+. So that person either can come from that social media site to this specific landing page. Organic is via search engine, right? So this is kind of the marketer's dream, right? The core idea of content marketing is to have people organically come to your website and view this landing page. And so what Google does is it lets you know if a person has come from a search engine, and you can also put in a keyword parameter in there, right? And when you put the keyword parameter, you can actually see what keywords are being used to arrive at this landing page. I think that's super cool. So direct, it means the user came directly to the landing page via URL. Somehow they have the exact link. Maybe it's a repeat visitor and they saved it in their favorites or somehow. But from my experience, most direct traffic is the result of email marketing. And so we'll talk about this a little later in the newsletter example on how you can kind of extract out that from the direct traffic. You can use campaigns and Google link append to kind of extract out the email traffic that's coming through. And so person comes in from desktop or mobile, any source, any of these three sources, and lands on this landing page. Now here's where you'll track abandonment, right? You want to track your abandonment and you want to track your conversions. Now, how many people clicked on the download versus the people that didn't, that type of thing. That's what's happening at the landing page. How many views did you get on this landing page? All that kind of stuff. And so Google keeps track of this metric called bounce. Now, bounce is quite different than a bounce that's an email, right? So bounce on web traffic really means a person goes to your site and does nothing, right? So if a person comes to your site, does nothing, and leaves, they consider that a bounce. So the bounce metric is a really good tool. So if you went into Google and searched all your landing pages and had that bounce metric, you can really kind of see how good or how well some of these landing pages are performing based on the bounce metric. Now, if the user downloads the document, right, an email is sent either with a link or the user gets the download automatically in the browser. Depending on the delivery method of how you deliver that document, it doesn't matter. I think at the end of the day, you should email the prospect. And this ties back into that humanistic kind of quality, like the brand is a person, and you want to, just talk to them and chat with them via email through once they download it. And so what you get, us marketers, we get data, right? We get this lead generation data that the visitor submitted, phone, email, name, title, and we collect that data and we use it to prospect later and use it in different, marketing campaigns. Now, I'm going to walk through a couple scenarios on how you can set this up and the levels of tracking that you can kind of implement on these landing pages. Now, there's levels to this, right? There's simple to, super advanced when it comes to tracking these landing pages. And think of it this way, has anybody done like P90X or, Insanity or any of those workout videos? But I did P90X, right? And you have one guy, he goes beast mode, right? And there's no way you can follow him, right? And if you can, I applaud you, right? Cheers to you. For me, I'm following the guy off to the right. He has all the modified moves. So what I'm going to do is break it down and give you some modified moves, but I'm also going to show you the beast mode analytics tracking. So here's a modified move, right? You just want to get it done, right? It's really simple. The most important thing to you at this point with this landing page setup is really to get the data, right? You want to know who is downloading the document. And so you'll just use that data to in various marketing campaigns in the future. And you really don't have the tech know-how yet, but I say yet because I think you're going to get there. We're going to build up your muscles here at HighRoad U and get you to that point where you can go beast mode, right? And so at this point, it's a really simple form, right? And hopefully your CMS has some type of plugin where you can create these simple forms. I'm a Drupal guy, so Drupal has this easy web forms module that allows you to create web forms on the fly. And so hopefully you can achieve this with minimal IT support. If not, then you might have to get like an IT or front-end developer or something to, create a form for you. But in this implementation, you create the form. There's no real Google Analytics tracking just yet. You just want to, you're not really ready for GA, all right? So your focus is just collecting the data, and you'll get this via an email form, and you'll manually track this in your AMS. And at the, at the very least, you have the data on your constituents, and you can cross-analyze this with data in your AMS. And this is a very viable route. This is kind of like, if you're just getting started and you want to get something up right now, this is fairly short time to implement a landing page like this. If you have a white paper right now, you can put this landing page together, and you can see that the layout of the page is very simple, right? So just a little text, a little icon for the image of the white paper, and then a form. And then, the form, emails you the data of who, downloaded the document. Now we're going to take it a notch up, right? What I call, simple sophistication, right? Now you're building some muscles, all right? You want to use some Google Analytics. And so you install Google Analytics, all the metrics that we discussed previously are available, right? You got, the clicks and duration, page use by source, all that we were talking about in that funnel. And when I say click, I'm not meaning click on the page. I'm actually meaning the click when somebody actually downloads the document. Now, this is an advanced technique, and it requires a little IT programming, right? So Google Analytics is based on JavaScript, okay? And so there's a JavaScript function that you have to apply to do event tracking. So any action that happens on the site, so like a click on a button, it triggers a JavaScript function, all right? Hopefully you have a front-end developer that's, in your shop that can, create one that you only have to apply once. So each time that you set up this page, you don't have to keep adding a new function. So there's ways around that. And so it's a little time, maybe a couple hours of work to set up, that event tracking. But, the benefit, outweighs the time. And so if you have to bug an IT guy to get this done, I think it's important to have that event tracking. Because as a result of this implementation, right, although the data that you're getting back is still manual and you're still going to have to import it somehow into your AMS or CRM, you're getting some macro, level details on this page and how well it's converting, right? So when somebody clicks on download now, there's a trigger that goes into Google Analytics that says this, this page has this click and they downloaded this document. And so imagine the funnel and imagine the level of metrics that you can present to your colleagues on a macro level on how well this page is performing. All right, so let's kind of move on to beast mode, right? this is you're the guy on P90X in the front, doing 5,000 push-ups, right? So this is the beast mode setup. You're using all of the Google Analytics setups that we kind of previously discussed in the previous setup, but you're taking it one step further, right? You're syncing that data back to your CRM or AMS. And now, this one is not a simple, install or turn up. This absolutely needs some IT involvement. And imagine this, though. This white paper is the free product in your AMS, right? And then imagine you go to your CMS, and all you have to do is like plug in a product code, and it creates this web form for you, all right? And so imagine how easy that is for you to kind of set up, a web form. So that's the development that has to go into play when creating this, all right? So when the user clicks on download now, what it does is it triggers some type of web service. Now I'm getting real technical because I mentioned web service. But yeah, so it triggers a web service, and then it creates an order. in your AMS for the data that's inserted into the form. Now, this is a rocking solution right here, right? There's little time for the marketer, heavy time on dev, but what you have now is all this data, right? You have micro data and you also have macro data, right? So now that you have the data within your AMS or CRM, you can really, get into some, advanced analysis on this landing page. All right, so let's take a look at another setup, and it's newsletters. All right, so newsletters, I think, now are kind of the cornerstone to digital marketing. I think, I don't think anybody's really sending out, advertisements like that in the association space, through email. I think most of it is newsletter kind of marketing. And I know this because I get the support calls, right? And, there's always some type of layout or spacing issue. And that's why we're trying to, transition people into this more sophisticated approach where we use hyper-personalization newsletters, right? And where you don't have to touch the template. The content in the newsletter derives from some type of shared, content taxonomy within your CMS and your preference center, and those two are synced as well. And so the constituent is getting exactly what they want. And so no matter the way you're distributing your newsletter, the tracking has to be placed on your content within the newsletter. So let's kind of dig into a newsletter funnel. So an email gets created, and again, creation methods vary. We have some clients that use Dreamweaver, some use templates within Blue Hornet, and again, now we have clients moving to that kind of newsletter plus hyper-personalization format. But regardless of the setup, there's tracking that you want to place on your links inside the content of the email. And there's a lot that happens once a user lands on the article. A lot happens once the person lands on that article with the video or the event. And having the proper tracking set up on those pages can help you improve your content. It's that kind of revolving door scenario, so you're getting the data, and then you're making improvements to your content over time. So the email comes into either a desktop or mobile, and we talked about a little bit about this when it comes to the landing page. You want your email to be responsive, right? So whether it's in mobile or desktop, and so hopefully you are doing responsive design. It makes it, easier for your constituents to kind of click through your site. If that's, your goal is to engage your constituents, right? So make it easy for them to get to your content and, extract some of that valuable content. Now, you can measure this in Blue Hornet and see how many constituents are actually viewing your emails now on mobile devices. So I think you should take a look at that stat and see where that's at, and that is probably credence to go back to the table and start developing some responsive templates. Now, so the email comes in, whether it's desktop or mobile, and the user finds this article, finds it very valuable to them, and so they decide to click through and learn more about this article. Now, the article could be a landing page, it could be videos, events, or some simple informative article. Now, the hardest part to tracking articles is that when there's no true call to action, is you really don't know if they read it, right? We're making assumptions that a page view equates to a read, but there's some other variables that you can put into place to kind of help determine whether a person was actually engaged into that article. You can do some events with scrolling. You can do some events when somebody highlights some text or copies some text. You can do some events that happen at a certain duration of time. So after a minute, it fires off an event. And then in Google Analytics, you kind of get some detail on saying, hey, this is a possible read since the person, was on that article for over a minute. So, So now you have the article, you're tracking some of those call to actions as well in terms of, if somebody has to actually click on something, those are easy enough to kind of track, and you have some conversion metrics to place on that newsletter funnel. So here's some standard KPIs that we all use in email marketing and measuring some of the effectiveness of your newsletters. And these are kind of baseline, but then, they're baseline, but they kind of get advanced after time once you start mixing and matching and doing some segmentation on the metrics. And we infer from opens that, the person actually, read the email. So to us, open is a read, right? And again, I think this is where survey data can kind of fill in the gaps on some of these things. Survey data can tell you, if a person is actually, you can ask that question, are you reading our articles? I mean, they can say yes or no, you know what I mean? So that's where survey data really helps to fill in these gaps when you kind of have some gray area or some unknowns. And so opens, bounces happen, and so there's a whole lot that goes into bounces, and this is bounces in emails, not bounces on web, and so these are actual bounces where the person doesn't get the email at all, and there's a myriad of reasons why a person can't get the email, so that's a whole nother discussion, but you want to track that. You want to make sure that, you're, diminishing the amount of bounces that are coming through your account. And then you have clicks, right? And clicks is kind of that ultimate metric, right? So you have opens. Yeah, I got them to open the email. All right, click. All right, they click through. All right, so what happens now after they click, right? And so a lot of times what we do is we stop tracking here. Our success is dictated on the click, right? But there's a lot that happens within that page once they click over, and so you need a bridge, right? And so that's the Google Link Append. And Google Link Append allows you to bridge the gap between your emails and your website, okay? So what you're doing is tracking that content from that campaign from the email and putting it into your web analytics platform so that you can kind of measure the effectiveness of those pages that people are landing on, all right? So what Google Campaigns does is it gives you these 5 variables to place in, you append it to a link that you already have, and that usually comes after a question mark. And so there's source, medium, term, content, and name. Source, medium, and name are required, all right? So if you do not have source, medium, or name, it won't work, okay? And I've been through this scenario a couple times, and it's like, why isn't the campaigns working? It's because I was missing one of the variables. Now, you can use these variables in different ways. This is kind of my format, and this kind of format I recommend, right? So the source coming from email marketing is the target audience, right? So if you have a segment that you're sending to, I would put that in the source. And what that will do was you can actually get some details on your web traffic based on those segments that are in Blue Hornet. So I think that's pretty cool. So you can actually go into your web traffic, do some filtering, and say, okay, based on this segment, this is how my web traffic looks for this segment within Blue Hornet. Now your medium is always going to be static. It's going to be email. But if you're using campaigns in other areas, medium means something different. But with email marketing, medium is going to be email. And then going back to when I was saying you can, segment those direct links, this is where, right? So all you have to do is put in that medium variable within Google Analytics, and now you filtered all the content to only email content. So all the web traffic that derives from email, you can see that within Google Analytics. Term, I use term to use it on the individual links within the email. For example, when you're creating a newsletter, sometimes you put 2 links to the article, right? So the title of the article, and then you have some teaser text, and then you have like a read more, learn more link, right? So what you want to do with term is specify which of those links you're clicking through, right? So you have your title link or your learn more link, right? So that term can distinguish between the two. And then when you go into Google Analytics, you can actually see the data, which links they're clicking on. Are they clicking on the read more button, or are they clicking on the title to get to your site? And that can help with, developing your email templates better, right? So knowing which links they're actually clicking on, it can help you create a better template. Content is kind of the table of content order, right? So each article that's in there, let's say you have 5 articles. Well, each link you would put, TLC1, TLC2, TLC3, so that you know what ranking order that article was in Google Analytics. So when you go into Google Analytics and look at web traffic, you can look at, and see, okay, give me all of the data on articles that were first in the story. And you can see all that metrics that are based on that first story in all of the emails or all of the newsletters that you have. And then the last thing is a campaign name. A campaign name is basically the newsletter title, right? So this is, if for us it's HighRoad U, we would put HighRoad U. And so now you can aggregate content in Google Analytics or metrics in Google Analytics based on campaign name. So I can see all of the web traffic based on a specific campaign. All right. It gets a little messy to set this up, I think, sometimes. So, excuse me. What I recommend is using this link here, right? So you click on this link and you can just build out, your link. So you don't have to kind of remember UTM source equals, like all that. You don't really need to know it. You just go to this form, plug in everything, and then you just add it to your email template. And so this is a really quick tool. You just go through, your campaign source, your campaign medium, make sure you have that in there, and your campaign name, and then boom, hit submit. You got your link. Now you're dropping those links inside your template. And depending on how advanced you want to get with your setup, if you're going to do the table of content link where you're doing each story, then you're going to have to, create one for each. But if you just want to have some baseline traffic, just create one for source, medium, and campaign, and then you're done. So when you get into Google Analytics, this is where you'll go to campaigns. And so you'll have a campaigns tab. And so all your campaigns, your email campaigns, will be listed here. And then so what you can do is you can see the traffic that are results from those specific campaigns. And then you can also, select the tabs at the top where you see primary dimensions. You can actually go with source, medium, source/medium, and then there's some other variables as well. Source, and medium is where you would see the email traffic. So you go there, click on medium, and that will allow you to see all of the email traffic that is within, your website. So I think that's, a pretty good tool, and that's kind of that bridge that I'm talking about that allows you to, see what people are doing once they leave your emails. And so, and this is a little talk about going beyond page views. And so once a person gets to your page or that article or that video on your website, there's things that are happening that baseline Google Analytics doesn't track, right? And so baseline Google Analytics is just going to give you, what people are actually happening. You're going to have to trigger events, right? So if a person clicks on something, you're going to have to place an event on that click. If somebody scrolls, you place a trigger. And so if somebody's scrolling, you can say, hey, fire off a trigger so that kind of lets me know people are going through my site. Duration, you can fire off one that says after a minute or so. Fire off a trigger or an event, and I qualify that as a read. They've been on the site for over a minute, and the probability is that they're reading this content. Now, um, here's kind of a standard setup for events. So there's a category, action, and label, right? And so your category is you're categorizing all of your events. So in this example, it's download. So all the things that people can download from my website, I'm going to categorize that event. And when I go to Google Analytics, I can see all of the metrics based on these downloads. And I can also have another layer of variables, which is actions. And actions can be, a PDF document. But you can even get even more granular than that and start to do like white papers versus case studies or things like that. So your action variable can be another category underneath downloads. And labels, excuse me, labels is the actual link that they're using to get, or actual link that they're getting, right? So the person downloads a PDF and gets this specific white paper. And so it's very easy on its premise, but there is a little technical piece to it in terms of implementing this. You're going to need some IT support, but if you're kind of that marketing technologist that can kind of do this thing on your own and you have the access to do it, I suggest, kind of researching events, and it can be, very, very powerful. Imagine this. Imagine you have a video page, right? And you have videos. Typically, most people use YouTube as a source to host their videos, but then they embed it onto their website. YouTube is tracking the views of that video, but you don't have those metrics within Google Analytics. Well, you can fire off an event when somebody clicks on the play button. And so now you have per video page that you have on your website, the amount of views that are happening within your website. So those are some of the cool things that you can do with events. And so I would recommend, once you kind of, figure your way through Google Analytics, start to implement some of these events, and you'll see that, one, your bounce rate will go down, because bounce rate is, dictated on, somebody not doing anything on your site, right? So if you start to implement some of the events, it removes, that from the bounce metric. So, so implementing events is very important. So I think that's where we're wrapping things up here. We're almost at the top of the hour. And so, Jeff, do we got any questions?
Great, yes, we do have a couple questions here, but just want to remind everyone that this is the Q&A segment of the training, and your participation is key, so please don't be afraid to ask some questions. You may ask a question in the webinar system by typing it into the Q&A box on the right-hand side of your screen, and then clicking the call-out button or hitting enter on your keyboard. All right, our first question, what do you recommend for tracking back web traffic that results from an email?
Yeah, so, email, so tracking, web, I use the, Google link append, right? So that is really that bridge between your emails and your website, right? So knowing, what people are doing on the website after they leave your email is very important. So putting that Google link append, and so and like I said, there's always levels to it, right? And I gave you one where we're going through each newsletter and putting each link. That's a little tough, right? That would take a while to set up. So, very basic is that source, medium, and campaign name. You plug that in, and now you have a bridge between your content from your email and the content on the web.
Okay, great. This next one starts out with a comment. This stuff is fascinating, Adam. Do you have any resources for what you read to learn more on this, or could you put together some sort of like a resources guide, something like that for us?
Yeah, I mean, what we're actually pushing out right now is this movement. It's HighRoad U, man, and HighRoad U is going to be that kind of resource to putting content out there to help you, right? Help you be a better digital marketer, right? And so we got, even this Friday, I think, we got a Google Plus kind of hangout where we're just going to be chatting about, digital marketing. So these are some of the things that are going to be rolling out with HighRoad. And so I'm going to start, getting ramped up with putting some content out there for you guys to actually, get some valuable information from.
All right, excellent. Next question. I feel like all our organization looks at our site visits. Is this old school, and what should we be looking at?
Yeah, I mean, site visits is really kind of, remember back in the day, right, when the web came around, and it was really fun to put that little ticker on your page, and it just went through, and then you got happy when you hit like 1,000, ticks on that, tracker, and that's where it kind of comes from. And so people kind of get happy with, page views, right? So, oh, I got, 10,000 page views, but there's more to, web metrics than just page views. And so you got to go beyond that. You got to start doing some events within there. You got to start, usually it starts with a question, why, right? So why is this happening on this page? And then you start to answer questions with another, another question and another question, and then you start to dig deep into the data. And so what I typically do is I go in there and start to run filters, and that's where you start to, look at, from different angles on sources, different angles on